Hey everyone, this is Riddle Hugger Asia Raven, and the MCU's Eternals has finally hit theaters, and yeah, the response is divided. The critics, if you go over to Rotten Tomatoes right now, the critics didn't seem to enjoy this movie. It has like it's somewhere in the 40% in the critic rating. However, the audience rating is in the 80s%. The last time I checked, so that's good. Now, I do realize that there are certain reviewers who ended up just not liking this movie because, ew, it has queer characters in it, and their critique doesn't necessarily deals with the pacing issues or the plot of the movie. It's just that oh no, it has a queer character in it, and that particular queer character is married as a kid. There's a kiss scene between the two married queer characters, the husbands. So yeah, I'm going to give it a lower rating. Now that does happen. I'm not saying that everyone who didn't like Eternals ended up being that kind of person. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there is a considerable amount of people who didn't seem to enjoy this movie just because it has queer content in it. But anyway, moving on. Because I mean, if you guys don't believe me, just go over to YouTube or on Twitter. You'll end up seeing a couple of videos made by the type of critics that I'm talking about. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to focus on this. In this video, I'm going to focus more on the queer representation in the Eternals, because we got this queer representation after like what, 25 movies, with Eternals being the 26th movie. Which, wow, like wow. Now it's not like it's not like that the MCU hasn't had queer characters before. It's just that their queerness hasn't been shown on screen. For example, Loki is a canon queer character if you look at the comics. However, Loki's queerness hasn't been obviously showcased on the big screen. And if it were, you could have said that, you know what, with Loki being a queer character, the MCU ended up introducing a queer character a long time ago. But because his queerness wasn't necessarily displayed on screen, that's why the MCU doesn't get any points for having Loki be part of the MCU. The same with Valkyrie. But and there was all when we talk about the queer representation, I think the first ever obvious queer representation, if you can even call it that was one of the Russo brothers appearing in Avengers Endgame in a therapy in a group meeting, a therapy type of session, talking to Captain America about missing his husband, or if it or was it a boyfriend? I'm not really sure, but the MCU doesn't get any points for that either. So that's why Phastos, people are very interested in seeing how the MCU ended up treating Phastos, because Phastos is supposed to be the first obviously queer main character in the MCU on the big screen. I know Loki exists, but again, as I said, Loki's queerness on the big screen hasn't been shown yet, even though we did get to see a hint of that in the Loki TV series over on Disney Plus. So Phastos, how was Phastos handled in the Eternals? Well, you will be glad to know that Phastos is part of the main ensemble, even though narratively he's not necessarily the main character. The story is more about Cersei and Icarus. Phastos can be described as more of he is one of the main leads, but it's more like his role is more of a supporting character. But even then, I do feel that overall, if you look at Phastos as a character, when it comes to his when it comes to his queerness on the big screen, I think that MCU did a good job. And hopefully, with Wiccan coming soon, and Hulkling coming soon, and America Chavez, and the MCU will continue developing when it comes to offering queer representation around the world. So Phastos, we are introduced to Phastos in the beginning of the movie, when we get this flashback where the Eternals reach Earth for the first time, and Phastos is part of that group. There are 10 Eternals in total, with everyone having different powers. Now, Phastos' power is that he's basically a technopath, which means that he can create any type of technology, whatever he thinks of, he can create. He knows how to create it, even if it takes a bit of time. And basically, Phastos has been introduced as the smartest person in the MCU, because again he can create whatever he wants. And when he first arrives on Earth, we don't get to see him in any type of relationship. We don't get to see him show his queerness, in the sense that he's not hooking up with dudes while he's on Earth. He's not having relationships with other dudes, not that we know of. Maybe he had some fun, because they have been on Earth for like 7,000 years now, but we don't know. So Phastos is just in the background. He's helping the Eternals. He's having a discussion with the rest of the Eternals when it comes to what type of technology he should be introducing to the world. Like there's an entire scene where he wants to introduce the engine to the people, but Ajax is like, that's too soon. That's too soon. So he ends up giving them a plow. Now, Phastos' narrative involves the fact that because he introduced technology to the people and he wanted to kind of introduce technology faster, that technology ended up leading to the creation of the atomic bomb. We have the scene where it's stated that Phastos ended up losing faith in humanity because of the Hiroshima attack, and he's like, yep. I blame myself for it, especially because I'm the one who introduced technology to humans, and this is what happened. Because, in a sense, Phastos is like, you know what? Medical progress and technological progress goes kind of hand to hand when it comes to conflict and wars. If there's conflict and war, people will end up making more technological advancements. So Phastos understands that, but Phastos is like, you know what? I'm not going to play a role in this anymore. So he has stopped using his powers, and that's that. After seeing Phastos lose his trust in humanity, he ended up walking away from the Eternals, and he ended up living a secluded life. So when Cersei and Icarus and Sprite and Kingo are trying to find Phastos, they end up finding him. To their surprise, he now has a husband and he's raising a kid, which means that, from what I remember, yeah, Phastos was like, you know what? I lost my faith in humanity. However, I refound it when I met my husband. His husband is way back here. He's played by actor Haas Suleiman, who is an out queer actor. And yeah, Phastos is like, I found Ben. I refound my love for humanity, and they are raising a child together. The child's name is Jack. He's a very cute child. I really enjoyed the scenes that he's in. And for those of you who are wondering, Jack is in a handful of scenes, and all of those scenes are quite well written, in my opinion. And Jack and Ben, his Phastos' husband's name is Ben. So Jack and Ben end up meeting the Eternals. They do interact with the Eternals that end up surviving the film. And I like the fact that the writers ended up displaying a very well written, healthy queer relationship between these two husbands, where Phastos is very honest about who he is to his husband, and his husband is quite understanding of the fact that Phastos is he needs to go and save the world, because Phastos is like, you know what? I won't allow the emergence of the eternal and the emergence of a celestial from Earth to kill my husband and child. I'm going to do whatever's possible in my power to stop the emergence. So yeah, Phastos ended up finding his love for humanity when he ended up finding love with his husband, which I'm like, okay, narratively. Like, it's not the most original concept, but narratively it makes sense. And yeah, we get to see Phastos play a very important role when it comes to stopping the re-emergence. And Phastos is also someone, I think I have a picture over here. Wait a second. Yeah. And Phastos is the one who ends up creating the weapon that's not the weapon, basically the device. Yeah, the device that's required to stop the celestial from coming out of Earth. So yeah, again, as I said, I really enjoyed the fact that Phastos is supposed to be the smartest character in the MCU as of yet, as of what we have seen, and he does play a very important role in the narrative. Now, narratively, Phastos is a very important character. However, when it comes to on-screen presence, and when it comes to whether or not he's basically the main character that the audience follows, he's more of a supporting character. Now, there is a kiss scene between Phastos and his husband Ben, in which, I mean, if you didn't end up liking this movie just because there's a queer kiss scene in it, I'm like, oh, come on, you know who you are, you know what type of person you are, right? Because, like, as far as my opinion goes, if there's someone who has an issue or doesn't like any type of sexuality being displayed on screen, that makes sense. However, if you're only going to single out the queer scene while you're okay with the non-queer scenes, yeah, that makes you, in my opinion, that makes you homophobic. Like, it's my opinion. But because I'm saying this because in Eternals, not only are there kiss scenes between Icarus and Cersei, there's like a sex scene between Icarus and Cersei. It's quite PG, but you know that these two are having sex. So if you're okay with that type of sexuality, but you aren't okay with Ben kissing his husband goodbye because he knows that his husband is off on a very dangerous mission to protect the world, and that kiss like only lasts for like 2 or 3 seconds, and if you have a problem with that but you didn't have a problem with Icarus and Cersei flirting with her new boyfriend Dan, or Sprite having a crush on Icarus. What more? There's also Makari and Druid are a thing. So if you don't have a problem with all of that type of sexuality, but you have a problem with Ben and Phastos kissing, even though they're husbands and all of that stuff, like rethink your opinions when it comes to queer representation on the big screen. So as far as my opinion goes, I think that the MCU did good. They did good when it comes to offering queer representation on the big screen, especially in a major movie franchise. Like, it's not that type of blink and you miss it type of queer sexuality where there's a single kiss way back in the background that can be edited out to appease certain countries. When it comes to the film's theatrical releases, it's not kind of that type of representation. There's like Ben is a full-fledged character. He's a supportive husband to Phastos. He's a supportive dad to Jack, their little kid, and also Ben also plays a role in urging Phastos to go and save the world, because there's an entire scene where Phastos is talking to Icarus and Cersei, and he's like, I'm not really sure if I am ready to use my powers again. And Ben walks in. He knows what Phastos is, and he's like, Phastos, remember what my mom would have called you right now? And Ben talks about how his mother thought that Phastos was always lazy, and he procrastinated. And Phastos was like, yeah, I'm not lazy, but yeah, Ben is like, Phastos, you have to go and save the world, because it's going to give our child a chance to live, and I want to see that. I want to see my child live and grow up and have a good life. So Phastos is like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And also Phastos' love for his family also gave him the power to stand up to Icarus, because Icarus was like, no, we are not going to stop the emergence, because we are loyal to Asherim and we need the Celestial to come out of Earth. And yeah, Phastos' love for his family ended up making him stand up against Icarus, who's basically the strongest of the group. Phastos is like, nah, I'm not backing down. I'm going to stop that Celestial from coming out of Earth, because I want to protect my family, and there's nothing that you can do to stop me. And there's also a scene where Phastos is like, you know what, it doesn't matter if I was created or if I was born, this is me, I'm standing up for myself. It kind of resembled those coming out scenes that certain characters go through in movies, where they're like, you know what, I was created, or whether I was born, I am who I am, and this is what I choose. This is what I choose to do in my life. This is how I choose to live my life. And the entire interaction between Phastos and Icarus kind of felt like not necessarily a coming out scene, but more of a proud scene, where a person is proud of his sexuality and their identity and who they are, and they aren't going to change that, even if it goes against their presumed nature, quotation marks. When it comes to why they were created and what type of role they were given by their creator, and the creator being Asherim in this instance. So yeah, I will also be doing a written article about the queer representation in the MCU. So make sure to read that. I leave the link down in the comment section below. As far as the screen time is concerned, Phastos has a lot of, yeah, he has a lot of screen time if you think about it, considering that there are like 10 characters in the entire film. He's always there, and he also has certain moments where the narrative focus solely on him. And I also like the fact that the MCU didn't like bury their single queer character. After the mission is complete, Phastos and the rest of the Eternals that survived and that are still on the good side, they do end up meeting at Phastos's house, and they end up meeting Jack, his husband. So it's all good. It's a healthy, well-written relationship where both parties communicate. Now, I do have a question. I'm not really sure, like Haz Suleiman as an actor in real life, he is a queer Muslim person. Now, considering that his name was Ben in the movie, I'm not really sure if Ben is supposed to be a Muslim character in the MCU. I'm not really sure. Maybe he has a Muslim name and he's Muslim and they just call him Ben as a nickname. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that was a question that really popped up in my mind. I was like, okay, so is the MCU really going there? Not only are they showing a queer couple, a queer married couple, but are they going to show that one of the people in that couple is a queer Muslim man? But I don't think that the MCU went there. Maybe they did, and I missed that, but I don't think so, because again, his name's Ben. It's not like, and he did speak in the character's native language, but because of his heritage and where he's descended from. But again, I'm not really sure if he's Muslim or not. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section below about the queer representation in the MCU. As the MCU moves forward and more queer characters are come on board, let's see how the queer representation continues to be handled. But yeah, let me know what you thought, and until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later.